Welcome to Podcast Sound Advice, the place for up-to-date podcast tactics and trends. You'll find actionable strategies to help you grow your audience, expand your influence, and monetize your content. Join Phyllis and Kelvin for Podcast Sound Advice starting now.
Hi, this is Phyllis with Sound Advice Podcast, and today we have a really fun guest that we've been wanting to talk to for a while. She is a residency program director and pediatric endocrinologist in South Florida. She is a wife to Josh, who's also a doctor. She's a mom to 3 beautiful children. She's been blogging since 2004. She has been podcasting since 2016. She actually started another podcast in 2018, and we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. She's a planning expert and somebody that I have also learned a lot from here recently with the some of her tips that she's provided for planning for the new year. So welcome, Sarah Hart-Unger, to the podcast. We're happy to have you.
Thank you so much. That was an incredibly accurate bio. You must have seen some of my podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. I do, of course. You know, I'm a fan. So we're going to talk about a couple of things, but since you've been blogging for so long and obviously doing now 2 podcasts, I'd love to know a little bit about, you know, your just content creation and why you enjoy doing it. Because obviously it's something you do enjoy. It's not part of your business or your career per se, but it's obviously something that you like to do that you're very good at. So tell us a little bit about how that inspiration comes for you.
Yeah, I think I really enjoy writing. I've been doing it for a very long time and just sharing pieces of my life with the world. I find that it often gives me much needed perspective. And I've been really lucky that over the time doing it, I've been able to build up a community of readers who really do sometimes feel like my own personal cheerleading squad or support. Get so many wonderful ideas from them. So blogging is something that just came naturally and kind of helped me get through some of the more challenging periods of my life, like residency or, trying to get pregnant, like those challenging times. And then podcasting just sort of became a natural extension on that. I was listening to a lot of podcasts and I thought, hey, I kind of like to talk. And, thinking about little 1990s me, like playing with my boombox and doing pretend radio shows, I was like, I could do this. Like, you can do this on a small scale. Anybody can do this. And so when I kind of put that thought out there on my blog, Laura, who had been reading my blog for a while and we had gotten together, responded. And that's how Best of Both Worlds was born. I never thought it would become such a professional endeavor. That happened because of the spark between Laura and I, and the fact that she kind of has connections and knows how to make some of these types of projects actually reach, a decent numbers of people, enough to be a little bit of a small business. And that's just made it a really, really fun extension. Like, not only is this an incredibly fun hobby and a release for me and a creative activity that I enjoy, but being able to have it be like this creative small business as well. I certainly, it's not the lion's share of my income by any stretch, but It actually does make up enough of a chunk that I feel comfortable being at 0.9 FTEs in my job. And so what a wonderful mix to still be able to basically work full time, but have a little bit of extra flexibility to do things that I find really fun and be able to make up the difference.
What's an FTE?
Sorry. FTE stands for full-time equivalence. So I don't work technically 100% full-time for my job. That's why I can do things like record this right now.
Right.
But I have some time blocked out where I can not basically be there. So it's great.
Okay, great. So just for people who don't know, Best of Both Worlds is a podcast that Sarah has been a part of with Laura Vanderkam. They started that back in 2016. In fact, this coming August, they will hit their 4-year anniversary, which is a huge milestone. I'm sure it puts you in the top 1%, maybe top like half of 1% percentile for that. And it's incredibly popular. And as you mentioned recently, it's been about a year, maybe not quite. I don't know, that you guys were able to monetize it. You have ads and sponsors and so forth, which is not something you did in the very beginning, but the audience has been there with you the whole way. So it seemed like a nice natural transition to do that, correct?
Yeah, I think it's been about a year and a half. I think it was like
Okay.
fall of 2019.
Okay.
Sure that Kelvin knows, from when we started torturing him with, okay, snippet this in there and turn this track into
And
that.
you
And it
think I
got a
would
little bit,
remember that?
it got a little bit more complicated. But yeah, it definitely added to the fun of it. And it was starting to take up like on average several hours a week. And then
Sure.
I sort of felt like this sort of existential pull, like, well, should I be working and not doing this if this has really turned into like that much of an endeavor? And so this was a great way of kind of again like making that time count for something. And I
Sure.
have to say some of the ad relationships we've had have been really fun, and I've actually, come to be a paying customer for some of the products we've done advertisements for, which is always kind of funny. So yeah, like this morning I went for a run in a pair of leggings that were
What? They don't
sponsored.
give you a lifetime supply for free?
No, Laura once joked that maybe part of their model is actually just getting podcast hosts to buy into their product.
Well, yeah.
I think she's been keeping a tutoring company like in business for the last year.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, so now we're going to kind of catch forward, at least move forward to 2019. That's when you started Best Laid Plans.
No, it was
Well,
2020.
actually,
Best Laid
Yeah.
Plans is a baby.
no, you're right. You're right. 2020. I'm
It's only 26
Best Laid
weeks
Plans
young.
is a pandemic project.
I
I
know.
mean, I had nothing else to do, obviously. No, I think it was just sort of like, we were all floundering and looking for ways to channel all this excess energy. And instead of refreshing news for the 90th time, I thought maybe I should just start a planning podcast, because whenever we get on planning tangents on Best of Both Worlds, I would just wanted to keep going. And I'm like, well, this probably not everybody wants to hear all of this. So it was a natural extension of a lot of the things that I blog about anyway. And it's just been so much fun. And I've been able to connect with kind of a different suite of guests than we normally have on Best of Both Worlds, as well as explore the adventures in solo podcasting, which turns out to be more fun than I might have thought. So yeah, I love Best Laid Plans. I'm really enjoying doing it. And it's really young. It's like half a year old.
Right, right. Yeah. So apologies. I keep thinking this is still 2020 and it's not. So anyway.
And in its young life, it already has a sponsor, which is also pretty amazing.
Yes,
I have two now.
congratulations.
Yes, yes. My first sponsor went out, and I'm going to be sponsoring an online yoga studio in March. So I'm very excited.
Good for you. That's fantastic. So for our Best Laid Plans, for people who don't know, Best of Both Worlds is actually a conversation with working moms, and they talk about all of those kinds of things, work issues, parenting issues, lifestyle type stuff, and a variety of other things. They have great conversations about that. And Best Laid Plans, I'm really enjoying Sarah talks and shares a lot of her expertise and just her personal experience about planning and being organized. And one of my favorite things, like the organizers themselves and the planners themselves. So, as someone who I mean, I have multiple planners and some of just, I don't know, that it's kind of I think this time of year, right? We see all these options and ads.
He has an issue with office supplies. Let's not lie.
I do self-confess. The people that know me very well know that I've admitted to it freely. So, Sarah, tell us, for people who haven't listened, I mean, I've already picked up some really, really good tips and some kind of copying some of the strategies that you use. But for people who haven't listened, maybe tell them maybe one or two of the things that you do, or several things are coming to my mind. I'm just going to let you share. So, a couple of things that people should know about Best Laid Plans, or just planning in general, and the way that you personally approach it.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I'll mention that Best Laid Plans has different types of episodes. And I think that's what makes it fun, because I think I would run out of content if I was just doing like planner advice straight from me for each and every episode. So, some of the episodes are what I call like focus episodes or deep dive episodes, where I might talk about like the ritual of monthly planning and how you can incorporate that into your life to try to make sure you're addressing things on a monthly basis that you want to achieve long-term goals and generally help build the life you want. So that might be an example of a focus topic. Then I also have guests who I tend to learn a ton from, just because there are so many different planning styles. Some people really like to plan in the digital realm. Some people just love their products and have so much to say about them. The third kind of episode is the product review episode. And I just recorded a really fun one. To be truthful, it mostly just gives me an excuse, like a really good excuse
To buy a planner.
to buy products that I'm like super curious about, but probably aren't even going to be able to use to their fullest extent because how many can you use? And then I
Right.
get to talk about them, and it's so much
I was going
fun.
to ask that question. How many planners can you use?
Well, I give them away sometimes. So I actually hosted a giveaway on my blog recently where I gave away like 2 full sets of planning stuff to some of my blog readers. And I don't like clutter. So actually, I can use several at a time, certainly, but I don't have like 100 planners at my house. If
Right.
I had kept them all since like I had ever started accumulating, because I used to review them for my blog as well. And like one year, I think I did like 12 different reviews of like, anyway, it can get out of hand. So that's why you have to give away the excess or let your kids color in it and then recycle it. Don't tell any of the brands. But anyway,
Right.
so the reviews are really fun. And I like to focus on smaller brands or like woman-owned brands or Black-owned brands to like, make sure that we're supporting some of these smaller players in the business that are still making really cool products for people to look at. So yeah, the reviews are fun. Oh, and then finally, I do a Q&A style episode.
Yeah.
One of my favorite podcasts is Deep Thoughts with Cal Newport. Deep Questions with Cal Newport. And his is all Q&A. And so I kind of copy that where I just, people ask their random planning related questions and I give them answers. And then sometimes I even put the questions out to the listeners and they'll send in answers and then I can kind of read their suggestions on an upcoming Q&A. And so those are fun too. So yes, I don't think I can give you like the secret to this whole thing. That's like a joke between me and my husband. Like, oh, I just know the secret to life. Like there isn't one. There's so many
Right.
different things, but
Right.
lots of tips and tricks and ideas delivered through those formats of episode.
Right. Well, so I agree. There is no right way, right? What's that Kung Fu Panda, right? Where there's no one way.
There's only the food way.
So let's talk a little bit about, because you're a busy person, you're a mom, you have a busy household, you have a full-time job, you have a lot of things going on. I think a lot of people who would like to podcast or who are interested, are sometimes definitely concerned about how much time and things like that it takes. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about doing it, or they're in the process of maybe planning their podcast project? What couple of pieces of advice would you give them? You would want them to know before they start?
I would want them to know they should hire people like you guys and not try to do it themselves. Because I think if I had tried to like even start doing editing and I don't even know, navigating that whole thing, I would have quit before I even began. So invest in yourself and get some help with that part of things. So that would be number one.
I
Number
like
two,
that advice.
number two, I would say, don't aim for perfection. You will then, if you're going to spend 10 hours on each episode, like, you're not producing an NPR series here. The bar is lower, especially when you're starting, but you can still get some pretty good content because you probably have ideas that have been like percolating in your head for a long time. So write those down, blurt out some drafts, on paper or on, electronic format. I usually like to do mine in Apple Notes or in email when I'm doing them for Best of Both Worlds. Laura and I do all of our scripts on email, and they're more like outlines, not scripts actually. And then just try it. And if your first episode is terrible, you can delete it and do another one. But don't aim for perfection right off the bat. I certainly, say things or say like too many times or stumble on my words sometimes, and it's not the end of the world.
But
How do I say that a lot? I don't want to know.
That's what everybody says. It's not just you. Everybody does that. So
My
only reason I point that out is just get over
I
it.
say like
It's
a
gonna
lot.
happen, so.
I know, but the verbal tick that actually really bothers me that I don't think I do all that much is the this, this, that. Oh my God, don't. Just if I ever do that, tell me. I hate
You do it. You do
I do it.
Yes.
I hear like when I listen to myself. I don't hear as much.
That's because I've priority
get
cut them out.
Okay, good. Thank you. Keep doing that.
Okay, so that's good advice. I think I agree with you, Sarah. One of the things that we tell people a lot is that podcasting is forgiving, right? First of all, it can be edited, number one. And number two, you're right. Like, especially if it's a solo episode, if you don't like it, just redo it, right? Just kind of do another take, so to speak. You certainly
Or if
can.
that part sounded bad, just stop, pause for a couple seconds, and repeat. We'll just cut it out.
Yeah, which is great. So I'm curious, because you were, again, blogging already, you had an audience. Once you got into podcasting, is there anything about podcasting or the responses you got, things like that? Is there anything about that surprised you, like something that was unexpected or something you just didn't anticipate happening?
Sometimes people will nitpick on little things that you never would have expected them to, but that same is certainly true for blogging. And sometimes it's not, every once in a while I'll write something or post something where I know that I'm going to get a lot of pushback, but sometimes you'll write or post something that didn't seem like there was anything particularly controversial about it. I am
Right.
not going to give specifics, but Laura got a lot of mail. Well, we both kind of did for something we talked about that we never, ever would have thought would have come off as controversial. So you just never know, I guess is what I would say. And just remember, it is public. You're not going to want to assume like, oh, well, I don't like my boss, but he'll never hear this. Like, no, he absolutely could and probably will if he's the one you don't want to hear it. So you are talking to the public and you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's good advice. And I am surprised because I mean, you guys are both, opinionated, and I don't think you're not you don't hold back, but you're definitely not controversial. It's not like you're taking really controversial stands about things. So I'm
I
surprised.
do remember one thing Laura said, and that's that if you have an online presence, you're going to get hate. That's just going to happen. So,
Yeah, she
Yeah,
did talk
and
about that.
honestly, that's certainly the exception rather than the rule, and I agree with you. We've been pretty lucky. It's just that, when you get 99 emails that are lovely and one that's like, "I really didn't like how you said that," guess which one you're gonna remember and fixate on for,
Right,
months and years to
right.
come.
Well, fortunately, it is the exception, and you guys have created so much good content. I think, and you have a lot of listeners, and so you're right. Like, there are going to be maybe a handful of people there that are just going to respond in a different way, and you, yeah, just kind of have to get past that, I guess.
Yes, no,
Yeah.
definitely, and it always helps when you hear from supporters and you just move on and you move on to the next thing, and maybe you think harder about how you express something or make sure you account for all sides.
Okay. So I'm curious for people who are just new to Sarah, or new to Best of Both Worlds and or the Best Laid Plans. Let's start with Best of Both Worlds first. So if somebody is new and they have not listened to that podcast yet, what do you have a favorite episode or two, or something that you could direct them to that would be just a good place for people to start? There's so many episodes there now. Like, what might be a good one or two episodes for people to check out to get a good feel for how that podcast goes?
would you ever send anybody back to episode 1?
Probably not. I mean, I haven't gone back to listen recently. I don't think I'd be horrified by episode
Oh,
1, but I'm sure the
wow.
conversation does not flow as easily, and I'm guessing we put on some probably more, like, airs, I guess, because when you're not as comfortable on the microphone, you're gonna be a little bit more hesitant and maybe overly poised in a way. So probably wouldn't say to go to episode 1, especially because there's so many more options to choose from.
Yeah.
I love our goals episodes because I love goal setting in general, and they're kind of an interesting way because Laura and I always discuss each other's goals. And so there's tons of those pretty much every year. And usually there's like a mid-year goals episode as well.
Right.
We did one, episode 177 was our 2021 goals episode. So if you're interested in that. And then, in terms of some of my favorite guests that we've ever had, I loved interviewing my sister, which was not that long ago because she is a single parent by choice. She had a child with a donor. So she was a different kind of family structure, but still really enjoying working and spending time with her baby during that first year. That is episode 165. Plus is my sister. So obviously it's easy to talk to
No
your
bias.
family.
Yeah. Yeah. Fun. Well, it was a fun episode, though.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did one with my husband as well, although I don't know what number that was. That one was kind of fun.
Okay. Well, we'll find that. And for people who are listening, if you didn't catch all of that, don't worry. Just go to the Sound Advice podcast page, and we'll put links to these as well so people can find these episodes. Now, how about with Best Laid Plans? Now, there's not obviously as many episodes. You're on episode like 26, 27, something like that. But I have several that I really haven't, I've enjoyed all of them, but several have been really good. But let's point to one or two there that people might like to check out first.
Well, I'm curious which ones your favorite are. But let's see. I had fun doing the 2021 systems episode, although fun fact, I think I had COVID while I was recording it. So that's always cool.
Oh my.
Well, my favorite review episode is probably episode 16, which is the Wonderland 222 review. If you want like to hear passion in a planner review, then that episode should do it for you. And then my Crown Joy guest episode, I don't know, the Cal Newport's someone I've, idolized
Yeah.
for a long time. And so talking to him was really exciting. That was episode 18.
Yeah.
But I also really love number 25, where I did a kind of a crossover with Planners and Wine, who is another planning podcast. So
It was a good episode. It was funny.
yeah, they were awesome.
Yeah. So that's good. And I'll tell you the ones that I like, and again, this is probably just because it was helpful to me, you've done a couple when you talk about your processes. So processes are not things that come easily to me. So I think that's probably why I really enjoy those, because I learn and I'm like, okay, you break it down in a way that it makes it feel doable. Most of the time when I'm thinking about processes, my initial reaction is usually to be like, no, no, no. So anyway, so those are good. Like you've done one about your weekly reviews, your monthly reviews. You've really gone into detail about how you do that. And I've learned for that, and I really found it helpful. So yeah.
That makes me so happy. Sometimes when I'm reading those, I'm like, I feel like I'm reading from a list. But at the same time, I have gotten a lot of positive feedback on those episodes. So I will try to do more like them. I know I need to do a daily one, maybe an evening one, and maybe a weekend one coming up.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. Also, I'll throw this out there. Something around like, meal planning and things like that. You mentioned that sometimes in a couple of your in a couple of them, right? But I'm just throwing that out as an idea.
Yeah, in the very last one, there's like a question I answer about that.
Oh,
I feel like I need to have a guest. I need to have like a meal planning expert guest. And actually, I have one kind of in mind, but I was thinking of her more for Best of Both Worlds. So we'll see.
We plan our meals about 5 minutes before we eat them.
You don't have
so
3 kids running around, do you? I mean, if I
yeah.
tried that, they'd be all, I'm hungry. And it would just be like,
I have a
I
cat that
can't.
runs around saying I'm hungry all the time.
Yeah, he's a little easier to take care of. So I would look forward to that, and I haven't heard the one with the Q&A yet. So
Oh,
I'm
that's
like,
the very most recent one. So
oh, okay, that's
probably
why.
only whoever has processed it has heard it.
Yeah, it's not live yet. All right. Well, we're about out of time, so I'm gonna take a pause here and just thank you for being here and for sharing a little bit about your podcast journey. I will just leave with 2 questions. One, which is just let people know where the best places to find you, and the best, other than listening to your podcast, certainly, and we'll make sure that we have links to all of that. But where are a couple of other places where people can connect and find you?
Yeah. So the easiest way, which gives you also episodes to all the podcast episodes, both of them, is just to go to my blog, which is theshubox.com, theshubox.com. And you'll see at the top a banner for Best Laid Plans, a banner for Best of Both Worlds, and you can access everything there. And I'm on Instagram at @the_shoebox, as well as shoebox_plans if you just want to see a bunch of planner pictures. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, great. And we'll make sure those links are on the website too. So if you go to the soundadvicestrategies.com/podcast page, you'll see Sarah's episode there so that everybody can find you and take a listen. And I guess the last thing I would like to just kind of leave the audience with is, in addition to kind of the podcasting and the stuff that you're already doing, just kind of what's ahead for you in 2021. We all are, I think, looking forward, certainly after this past year. So is there anything fun or exciting or just sort of different that you're looking to do for this year?
I think just grow my current things that I'm doing. I'm really excited about where Best Laid Plans is right now. I'm still excited about Best of Both Worlds, but I feel like that's reached a nice steady state right now. Whereas
Absolutely.
Best Laid Plans seems to be in a nice growth phase, and
Yeah.
continuing to get sponsors for that and getting some fantastic new people to interview. So from a podcast perspective, that's kind of my plan. And then the rest of life, just chugging along, doing my parenting, doctoring life thing, and just feeling grateful that I'm able to do as much as I can do. I love it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for being here with us. And yeah, thanks. And we're glad to be able to work with you. You're a podcast favorite, and she is a client, as people know, but I truly do. I mean, I listen to your podcast as I think a user or a subscriber, because I do find it so helpful. So thanks for joining us. And yeah, we'll hope to have you back soon. Maybe we should have you back towards like the maybe middle or end of this year, and kind of just see how things have gone and progressed, because I'm sure some big things are going to be happening.
Well, let's see. Well, thank you so much. I have to say to the listeners that you guys do an amazing job, have come through for us, Laura and I, and me every single time. We're so happy with the production of our podcast. So
Thank
if
you.
you're listening to this and on the fence, you should absolutely check out Sound Advice Strategies. And no, they did not tell me to say that.
Oh, well, and
We did
thank you.
not
I'm
pay
kind
for
of,
that endorsement. No.
we did not. I'm kind of blushing, but thank you. We appreciate it. And we love doing this. And it's really nice when we get to work with really fun, nice people like you guys. So thanks a lot and have a great one.
That's our wrap for this episode. We hope you found today's sound advice helpful. Let us know what you think by leaving us a review. You can get more resources at podcastsoundadvice.com. Until next time.